Good evening and welcome to the November 29th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. It is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing one commissioner tonight. One is definitely not going to show. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. Just a reminder to the commissioners for commenting. I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Let's try not to speak over each other. Also, that all votes need to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw applied to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply, so the project could proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply, so the project may require further review or a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear a negative determination. And for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, but so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 174 Penzance, 459 Central Ave, 53 Toby Lane, and 22 Millfield Street. All right, with all that under our belt, first up, vote minutes, November 8, 2023. Anyone?
Chairman, I move approval of the minutes.
Thank you.
As written.
Freitag, second.
All right. We have a motion to accept the minutes as submitted. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa.
Okay.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of November 8. Next up is vote minutes, November 14, 2023. This was that exceptionally long meeting that we had. Anybody?
I vote approval of those brief minutes.
I'll second Gladfelter.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of November 14. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa?
Freitag, aye.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of November 14. Thank you, Kristen. Next up are requests for continuance for determination of applicability. First up, Eileen Meany, 30 Marshview Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair the existing deck, platform, and railings, and to reconstruct the stairs in accordance with the state building code. Ms. Bergeron.
Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance until January 10th.
So moved, Carlo Hawks.
And second.
All right. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until January 10th. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Sorry, Freitag Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this request until January 10th. Next up, Ryko and Brian Henricks, 120, 125, and 130 Old Dock Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.1810B. Ms. Bergeron,
The applicant has requested a continuance until December 6th.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawks second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to continue this request until December 6th. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Freitag Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 12/6. Next up, Frederick and Shirley Weedman, 23 Debbie Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to pump, dry, fill, and abandon the existing cesspools and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Ms. Bergeron,
The applicant has requested a continuance until December 6th. We received revised plans today.
Bird, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to continue this request until 12/6. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Freitag Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 12/6. Next up, it's going to sound familiar. Frederick and Shirley Weedman, 24 Debbie Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to pump, dry, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Ms. Bergeron,
The applicant has requested a continuance until December 6th.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawks second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until December 6th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Freitag Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 12/6. Next up, Christina O'Connor, 37 Fells Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.1810B. Ms. Bergeron,
The applicants have withdrawn their request.
Oh.
all right. So there. All right. This brings us to requests for continuance under notice of intent. First up, Gray Zine, trustee, 174 Penzance Road Realty Trust, 174 Penzance Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a flood wall on top of an existing licensed stone wall, extend the existing stone wall, and install a plunge pool and mitigation plantings. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until December 13th.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawks second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until December 13th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Freitag Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this request until December 13. Next up, Richard Von Turkovic, 459 Central Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct 2 additions and a covered porch, reconstruct the front entry, and install mitigation plantings. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant would like a continuance until December 13th.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 12:13. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Fragile guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until December 13th. Next up, Philip and Deborah Graham, 53 Toby Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a detached garage, enlarge the existing driveway, and to install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Oh, I did the wrong one. This one was continued, this one wanted December 13th. So the applicant is requesting a continuance until December 13th.
So moved.
Carla Hawk,
Bird, so
second.
move.
All right, so you're telling me we're gonna go backwards on one?
Yes, we are. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so this one is for 53 Toby Lane.
Correct.
So we have a motion and a second to continue this until 12:13. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on this continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Fragile guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 12:13. And that's the last of the continuance requests. So Jen, what one are we going backwards on?
We're going back to 459 Central, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
All right, 459. All right, so what I'm gonna look for is Jen's gonna tell us the date they're requesting. If we're okay with it, we're gonna make a motion and a second to change that continued date. We don't need to go through a bunch of different things, so that's what we're gonna do. What's the date they'd like?
January 17th.
Ooh,
Wow, big difference.
bad.
I make a
Bird, so-
motion to change the continuance from 12/13 to January
17th.
17th.
Bird, second.
Excellent. That's the way we want to do it, short and sweet. That works. All right. So the motion and the second is to change the continued date from 12/13 to 1/17. Questions or comments? We're voting on this change. Again, it brings us to January 17th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Fragile guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have changed that to January 17th. Man, all right. We like our paperwork, don't we? Next up, request for determination of applicability. First up, Ham for Mark Pinus, 34 Tupelo Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18 10B. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? Melissa?
Yeah, quick question. It says on the staff notes that outside the proposed vista, 2 trees are in declining health are proposed for removal. Will those be replaced?
They have many trees on the property, so I
Okay.
don't think they would need
That's
to.
fine. Okay, Great, thanks.
Anything else?
Nope,
All
that's
right,
it.
we're voting on accepting staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Frog eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, I'm sorry if I get this wrong, no disrespect. Yogesh Gidhar, 29 Owl's Nest Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to permit an existing staircase, install mitigation plantings, and grandfather an existing dock. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Carla Hawks second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting up to accept the staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Frog eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Anita Lockwood, 71 T-Ticket Path, T-Ticket Mass, for permission to replace 4 pilings on an existing licensed dock. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Carla
Frog
Hawks.
second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting on accepting staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Frog eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Ronald Smolowitz, 277 Hatchville Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a 2-story building. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Carla Hawks second.
I have a question. This is not a habitable space building.
It's not. It's going to be meant for the staff for educational purposes, and oh, there was one other reason, but it's not going to be lived in.
I
So-
believe agricultural storage.
Yes.
Okay, would it matter anyway?
It would, because of the agricultural exemption. So this is being constructed under the agricultural exemption.
It would have been allowed even if it was.
It would have been allowed with mitigation.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
yeah. The
I mean, the
septic
pro-
is outside our jurisdiction. It's going under the driveway, and this is tucked into kind of an open area near the driveway. But it is within, 100 feet of the pond and would have required mitigation. But again, it's under that agricultural exemption.
Got it. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Frog eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Bernadette Levesque, 4 Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct an addition and install mitigation plantings. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Frog second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Frog eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next one has been previously continued, brings us to Joseph Young II, Coastline Construction, 28 Worcester Court, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct the existing decks. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Frog
Counsel.
second. Sorry.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Frog eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. All right, next up. Again, I'm sorry if I get this wrong. Philip Chishportik, 189 Surf Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install seasonal screening and keep the roof structure on an existing rent station. Ms. Bergeron,
So staff has a two-part recommendation for this. So I can go a little bit out of order. I'll explain. 189 Surf Drive, you guys have seen recently under an enforcement order. This was the unpermitted shed and rent station on Surf Drive in the area that was supposed to remain open for wave travel. Mr. Shishportage has gone about and removed the siding to the rent station. For privacy reasons, staff has recommended a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw for him to be permitted seasonal cloth or canvas screening, as we've seen on some other rent stations in velocity zones and that you guys have permitted. The second reason for this RDA is you guys had required the roof of the rent station to be removed, which has not been done. And though the enforcement order was not appealed, this was the next way that request could be brought back to you guys for reconsideration. To be in line with your previous requirements under the enforcement order, staff is recommending a +3 under the state and a +4 under the bylaw to keep the roof structure.
Jen, do you want to add anything at this point? Because there's going to be other comments, I'm sure.
No, I mean, Lisa summed it up perfectly.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to imply she didn't.
Yeah.
I know how these things go. So I'm going to start because I want to. I went there. I actually spoke with the homeowner, but I looked on site. So I don't have a problem with the sailcloth. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with the roof. And the reason I don't have a problem with it is it's under an actual overhang of the building. So roof is kind of a misnomer. However, what I'm getting at is the way it's constructed as a shading from leering neighbors. No, I'm just, it gives them a sense of privacy from upward or downward facing windows. So in my vote would be to allow it. However, I would put a caveat in there that it has to be secured better. Because I think they started to remove it and decided to leave it, see if we would allow it. So it needs to be refastened. That's my 2 cents. Also, while I was on site, there's a new generator, and I'm not sure that is the way it is allowed because it's not above the floodplain. So that's my comments. Anybody else want to comment? Question, Courtney?
Could that roof be made out of the same sailcloth? So the side isn't just removed in this.
I would say no. I think what it is, like a louver. It's like 1x6 plastic that's spaced. I didn't measure it. I'm going to say a foot on center. So it's not like a hard structure, and it is underneath the cantilevered second floor, for lack of a better way of putting it. So again, it affords some privacy. So Jen, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to say that we double checked with the building department. The generator did have a building permit. It is on existing gravel, so we're okay with it. And it got a building permit. It got all the sign off from the inspectors. The building commissioner seems to think that generators are treated a little bit differently than the other mechanicals that have to be raised above the floodplain, but it got all the sign-offs. He was gonna double check with Eric Carlson at DCR, the quote-unquote FEMA guy. But he was gonna double check with them.
Okay, I mean, if they're okay with it, I'm okay with it. And
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for trouble. I just
No,
thought I'd say
no, it was
'cause
interesting. Because
I
when,
was there, yeah.
yeah, when Alyssa showed me the picture, I just started to laugh. I'm like, that can't be like that. But I guess generators are there's a slightly different standard for generators. Who knew?
Yeah, probably because there's a disconnect, but I mean, to this credit, it's raised, I don't know, 30 inches above grade. So, I mean, there is some degree of protection. Melissa, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the image that came with this thing, and I mean, it looks like a lanai that's sort of rigged up there. It's something that one would normally put plants on or hang wisteria from. I wasn't around for when it came to us earlier for the enforcement order. I'm wondering if we can just buy a week so they can get out and actually look at it a little better. I mean, if you folks have already prohibited the roof and the structure, then I would say stick to guns. But yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, if you're saying that the lanai fixture isn't even well secured, but yet it's also under an overhang, I'm kind of skeptical as to how it would offer privacy in an outdoor shower. Just thoughts. Thank you.
Steve,
I agree with your opinion earlier stated, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Anyone else? Maury,
I actually liked Courtney's idea of if they're doing sailcloth around the base, why a sailcloth couldn't be on the top. And I'm more concerned looking at that structure and you saying that it's been semi-dismantled, if it's even building code. So here we have it in a velocity zone. It's underneath, again, I'm with Melissa on that one, that in Courtney, it just doesn't seem like they need that much structure for privacy. And I don't know how that open trellis looking thing is going to give privacy. So I'm a little confused with that. With the roof.
fair enough. The only thing I would say is if we're going to allow sailcloth up there, still would need some form of a frame.
Be a lot
And-
less, yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Actually,
All right, hold on. All right,
That's all. I just stick
Okay.
with that.
Melissa?
so sailcloths can have the little divots in them or the grommets in them. You can get, a 3-pointed sailcloth and just tie it to other parts of the building.
Okay. So I think we're gonna have to vote on these separately then, correct?
Correct.
Sorry, Alyssa, I should ask.
Yes.
I'll
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the first part of the staff's request that we issue a negative on everything except the shower closure.
How about
Okay, so. Go
I'll
on.
move approve. I'll move
Am
approval.
I understanding that was the half of it?
That's
Yes.
I've got it in front of me here. I'd like to move approval for the paneling, the canvas paneling
So
around,
Courtney just did.
sort of. Okay. He called it the first part, and on the paperwork, the first part is the roof. That's why,
No.
yeah.
Ms.
The
Bergeron read
roof
the
is the
panels.
second part, isn't it?
Under the recommendation,
Oh
the
my
roof is the
God.
first part. Okay.
Jamie, what's
right.
the motion? I'll second it if you tell me what it is.
The motion is to approve the sailcloth panels.
Second.
Sides. All right, so that's what we're gonna vote on, then we'll come back to the roof. Everybody clear on that?
Yes,
All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Fragile guy.
Steve.
And I,
Okay, so this first vote was to accept staff's recommendation of a -3, -2 on the side panels being a sailcloth type material. The second part, whether
make
it
a
was said
motion.
first or second,
I'll make a
ahead.
motion to accept staff's recommendation on the roof.
which is a +3 and a +4.
Correct.
Fragile
Okay.
second.
All right. So again, this is to accept staff's recommendation on the roof piece. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird no.
Matthews, no. Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Fragile guy.
Steve.
and no.
All right, what do we have?
Greenhouse, I think.
We have a tie.
Motion doesn't pass.
So that means that they're ordered.
That means we don't accept staff's recommendation.
No, my motion was to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, which means it didn't pass.
Betsy, our recommendation for that was a positive.
Right.
Yeah, to accept staff's recommendation of,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, did I say negative? Of a positive determination.
So the
Right.
motion did not pass, so the roof is allowed.
Okay.
Excuse me, I believe that means the status quo stands, which means that it's still under of the prior, what's it called?
That may or may not
Order.
be.
The enforcement order. Yeah,
That may or may not be. That's a different matter. We're voting on what this
Right.
RDA was.
All I can say is the motion did not pass.
So we'll leave that to the legal minds to see if they want
Correct.
to-
I'll double check with legal on what that means, but the motion did not pass. You okay?
All right. Sorry, Alyssa. All right. Next up, continued request for determination of applicability. The first one had been previously continued. So did the next one, and the next one. Wow. All right. That brings us to the ever popular request for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Marnie Farrell, 202 Edgewater Drive East, LLC. 202 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct 2 decks, entrance station, replace a fence, and install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted George Collins from Collins Engineering up to present his project. Hello, George.
Good evening.
Mr.
Can you hear me?
Collins, you're up, sir.
Good evening. How is everybody doing?
Good.
I don't know if you'd like me to share my screen at this point.
Your presentation, sir.
Can everybody see that?
Yes, George.
Okay. Good evening. For the record, my name is George Collins from Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing Marnie and Mike Farrell. They own 202 Edgewater Drive East. They recently purchased the property, and they they're on the east. So this is Edgewater Drive East. So they're on the east of the Edgewater Drive East, and then they have Eel Pond to the east of the property. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. They're proposing a new deck in this location. It's a 8x16 deck. They're also proposing a 5-foot by 12-foot deck in the front with a single step down. And then in this location here, they're proposing a 4-foot by 4-foot rinse station. It's kind of hard to see, but along here, there's an existing chain link fence that runs along here. They'd like to remove that chain link fence and replace it with a new chain link fence. They would like to reserve the right to use an alternative fence. We were also discussing, they have the marine wire rope fences where it's just like it's like the stainless steel wire fence, but basically, it would just be similarly spaced, like 8-foot post, 8 feet apart. But at this point, they're planning on doing the just replacing the old chain link fence, 4-foot chain link fence with another 4-foot chain link fence. It's just kind of old and deteriorated. I've proposed erosion control. This red dashed line here and red dashed line here. And then I have all my calculations for my site mitigation. I did get a few comments from staff, from your staff. They were asking what type of fence would be installed. I added that it would be existing chain link fence to be replaced with a new chain link fence. I did not include the rinse station as an impervious surface. So I recalculated everything to include the rinse station, which and I also modified the mitigation planting area accordingly. And then there's a standard note that I've been putting on a lot of my planting schedules. I spec out the number and the size of the plantings, but what we find all the time is when we go to do the plantings, they're either not available or they're not available in the appropriate size. So I did add some language to the effect that we could identify the plantings at the time that we go to purchase the plantings, just primarily based on availability, and with that to be approved by conservation staff. And then the other comment that your staff had was what it is, I had an existing conditions plan that I had done actually in February of this year, and subsequently there was 2 trees that were really close to the house that were removed with the authorization of staff. They were just kind of old trees, and the people were concerned about damage to the house if the tree fell. And then there were some trees in the front yard outside of the 100-foot jurisdiction that also, it's my understanding, they were given authorization to take down because they're out of jurisdiction. So I did update the plan and remove the tree symbols off of the plan, reflecting the trees that are still there now, and I got rid of the trees that are not there anymore. So essentially, that's basically what we're doing. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission or commission staff may have at this time.
Thanks, George. You can stop sharing. Jen.
No questions, only the comment. The plan you just saw from George is the updated plan reflecting his response to the staff comments. So thank you for that, George. So if the plan looked a little different from the one you guys have, that's why. And yes, I did authorize myself the removal of several trees in the front yard that are outside the 100-foot and trees that were overhanging and for some of the trees to be limbed. And I have no other comments or questions. And George, whatever type of fence they want to put back there, that's a pretty steep slope.
Yeah, it's a real
So it
safety
needs,
issue.
yeah, it needs to be secure. So whatever type of fencing they would want to put back there, we're fine with that.
Has to be grandchild proof, which
Yeah.
I don't think there is such a thing. But they'll do their best.
Ms. Bergeron.
No comments, thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments or questions? Betsy?
I just have well, I guess it's a question. Has it seemed to me when I was out there that the deck's already built. Is that correct?
I
Is
can
that my
answer that.
imagination?
No, there was a deck on the property, Betsy, that was constructed on the back of the house. Obviously, it couldn't be there. It would have been moving closer to the present primary structure. So staff worked with the property owner to have that deck removed. And they complied with our request to remove the deck because it was either that or an enforcement order. And, you know, we worked with them on a way where they could actually have some sort of outdoor deck space, and on the side of the house was the appropriate place to put it. I allowed the deck structure to remain on the property so they didn't have to dismantle the whole thing. So if you saw something lying on that side, that's why. It was the deck that was from the backyard.
It wasn't in the right spot, but it was
No,
it
yeah.
was a deck.
No, and to the applicant's credit, they complied with all of our requests to bring the property into compliance, to remove the structure that was unpermitted. And again, we work with them to try to get them some outdoor space, and a little deck on the property, and the side yard seemed to be the most appropriate.
Okay, that's great. So my other question then, and it must have to do with the deck that's been removed, is that's what the existing footings are
In the back?
in your plan?
Yeah. If you don't mind, I can mention.
Yeah.
There are some existing footings from where there used to be a deck prior to my client purchasing the property. I just suggested to them, if there's physically something there, let's just show it on the plan so it's appropriately inventoried.
Okay,
I think, yeah, I'm sure if we looked at aerial photography at some point, there was a deck on between the water and the house, but I just figured to be thorough, we would show those on the plan, just for inventory purposes.
okay, just checking. I was just a little puzzled when I
those are old
up
footings. Those are
found
old
it,
footings. Those are
found the
not,
deck and found footings and yeah, that's fine. That's
those
fine.
are old
That's good. I'm glad,
footings.
I'm glad you and the applicant work with the staff and resolve these issues. Thanks.
Always a good thing. Courtney?
No questions. They've been answered.
Thank you. Maury?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I have no problems. I just don't want those footings to become a new deck later on. So I don't know if they should be removed.
Probably remove the old footings, correct? We
Yeah.
can condition that.
Yeah, that would be the only thing. That's it. Thank you. And thank you for working with staff.
Melissa?
Thank you. Most questions have been answered. Just a question for staff. Are you comfortable? I'm accustomed to seeing gallon size for new plantings, and these have 2 to 3 feet minimum. You comfortable with that? As opposed to calling for a 2-gallon or a 1-gallon minimum?
Size 3 feet.
Yeah, 2 to 3 foot minimum. and then 3 feet on
George, what do
center.
you, can you clarify
Yeah.
what you mean by that? Is that's not gallon size?
Yeah, I mean, that's what
And those are
Specify.
big.
that's what I've always specified, even stuff that I've presented to this commission. So I mean, whatever the commission is comfortable with.
We can condition that, Melissa. That's
So
not a
maybe like 2
problem.
gallon.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that staff was comfortable enough with the 2 to 3 feet size and the sort of last minute whatevers.
Mhm.
And marine wire makes great, decking fencing or yard fencing, and it still allows small creatures to get through. In fact, better than not grandchildren to get through, but larger than chain link fence size. So
Okay.
yeah, it's marine wire. Great. No more questions or comments.
Steve,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how you guys got Jennifer on your side like this, but I like it.
harsh, man, harsh. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not on this project, Mr. Chairman.
So honoring Steve's comment, I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawk's Eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
And I,
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, George.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, George.
Thank you for your help.
Good night.
All right. The next one had been previously continued, brings us to Peter Fisher, 15 Juniper Point Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a deck, install mitigation plantings, pump, dry, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool, and install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Tom Bunker up to present his project.
there he is. Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Here I is. That's right. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, here representing Peter Fisher in his quest to add a deck and a new septic system to his house at 15 Juniper Point Road. I'll put my screen up and show you the plan.
Excellent.
And then try to find the plan. There it is. So on this property, it's on a part of the property slopes steeply down to a pond. It's, as far as I know, it's an unnamed pond on Juniper Point. That's in the middle of several house lots in here. And Alyssa and I did just earlier today email the BVW the data sheets for that. We had them, but just didn't include them. So LEC flagged the wetland along the bottom of the bank here. This is in a flood zone AE elevation 13, which runs along the bank up to the 13-foot contour. And this bank is steeper than 4 to 1, quite a ways up. So I have the top of coastal bank demarked thusly with this line with the triangles in it, up to the 22-foot contour in this location, and then it drops down in elevation. And so you can see the house is about 15 feet back from the top of the coastal bank. And the proposed deck there's currently this stairway exists, this walkway and stairs and walkway exist to a entry at this location and then go into the house at the 33-foot elevation roughly here. And they just want to add a deck on this side, or basically a screen deck in this location on posts. And that's the same elevation as the house, like up to 33. So it's well off the ground. And the cesspool, you can see, is down in this location here, top of the bank, edge of the lawn in this location. And so we're putting in a pump chamber in this location here and pumping up around up to the leaching area, soil absorption system up here, which is 104 feet from the wetland in this here. It's only 53 feet from the top of the coastal bank, but it can't be 100 feet. And we can't move this much closer because a very small old the water main which goes through here, it's only a 2-inch wrought iron cement line water main, is fairly close to the SAS, and we didn't feel we should or have to request the variance from Board of Health to get it closer to that water main. And I don't think that would add any more protection to the pond, because it is more than 100 feet to the wetland and the pond down here. It's the addition is in zone A of the coastal bank, so it's a 3-to-1 mitigation, which we have here. 251 square foot addition needs 753 square feet of mitigation, which I started out along here 10 feet from the house to get a little wider buffer along here, along the top of the coastal bank, and then work the way up in this location around the shrubs and the trees, trying to stay away from the roots of the cedar trees as we go around there. So we have 753 square feet of mitigation in there. So certainly, as the upgrade to the septic system is a benefit to the environment, and the mitigation planting will help out. Also, I saw the staff report about the trees that were topped or cut off, and that's, at least there's one, I think it's a pine tree that's further out on this property. Melissa said maybe it's on 21 Juniper Point Road out here. When we did some of the work in June, that was not cut like that at all. And frankly, I hadn't noticed. I think it's 3 other cedar trees. I think it's this one, and this one were topped. One is on our property, and the 2 others are over here. I hadn't noticed them. But this other one, when we were there in June, it wasn't in that condition, but that's off the property anyway. So we can't really do anything about that. So that is, I'll take this down and take your questions.
Excellent. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions other than Tom. What happened to those cedars is kind of concerning to us. So if you're saying they're on 21 Juniper Point.
Well, looking at the plan, and I saw from the picture, there are 3 that are fairly evenly spaced, and there's a 12-inch, a 8-inch, and a 14-inch that look like the ones. And one is on our property, and the 2 are over on 21, and the pine tree is further over. I'm sure it's on 21, but I can take a look and verify that.
They should probably work with their neighbor and replace those trees. I think they've been damaged too much.
Yeah, well, condition what you have to.
Okay.
For that.
We will. And did you provide the BVW data sheets?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. No other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Accept. All right, Ms. Bergeron.
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Courtney.
Why, have you considered a D-night system there?
Well, I consider, but as others we've done, it's not in the area that will require it. So that's the best I can say about that. It's not in a zone of contribution to a coastal pond. That's the DEP criteria for their nitrogen sensitive area.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Maury.
No, all my questions were answered. I'm glad to see after 16 years of the perk test, you're putting in a new septic system to get rid of the cesspool.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right. Melissa.
Thanks, Jim. I'm pleased with the upgrade too of the system. Those topiary trees though, when I was there, they actually looked like they were on the property, and I am sure that the neighbors at 21, I don't know what they were thinking, but it certainly didn't improve the view at 21 Juniper Point, and it massively improved the view to those beautiful picture windows at 15 Juniper Point. So I would really like to see those cedars be left alone from now on, and also perhaps or also helped or given friends, shall we say. And I don't know, you mentioned an oak or a pine that you thought was hacked to bits, but it looked like an oak to me. And again, I'd like to see that be compensated for somehow. Because that's just, they were all sort of egregious. We're going to open up our view completely, but not take down the trees. And so all four of them, please. Thanks. Somehow. Because that oak tree is, that was an 18-inch oak easily, if not bigger. It was big.
Yeah.
It was. Okay, that's it.
Okay, Steve.
Can't think of anything to add, Mr. Chairman, and I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Betsy.
No comments, no questions.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Heard, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Harlow Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Hi, guys.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you.
Not going to say goodnight, Tom, because I know you have the next one.
Yeah.
I have the next one. I'm not leaving yet.
Stand by. Next up, Loretta Romero, trustee, 15 North Chop Lane, LLC, 15 North Chop Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, and restore an area of mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Bunker is here to present his project.
Welcome back, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. Glad to be here. For the record, I'm Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I'll put my screen up and then look for the picture of this plan of this property.
Thank you.
And here. It's probably on his day. Oh, there it is. Okay. but Adobe was not going to open. Hold on a second. All right. So at North Chop Lane, I can show you on the locus map. It's right on Vineyard Sound, east of the entrance to Green Pond. So situated between Davis Neck Road and Davisville Road in this location here. And there's a house on there now, which has been there for a while. So we did a septic upgrade back some time ago. I don't know exactly when, but probably in my narrative somewhere. And the new owners want to take it down and build a new house that's more compliant with everything. So what you can see, what they're doing is you're just comparing the two. This house, the front step is just a tiny bit in the velocity, the FEMA velocity zone, and more of it is in the house itself is in the Falmouth. So see, the Falmouth velocity zone goes right across the middle of the house, roughly, and so pushing it back, the house back roughly 25 feet or 20-some. So you can see the red outline here is where the existing house is now. And this hatched there is the proposed house. So we're no longer in the FEMA velocity, no longer touching at all the FEMA velocity zone, and just outside of the Falmouth velocity zone. So we're in the AE elevation 13 flood zone. And the mitigations, basically, the house was designed so that it would occupy the same area as the existing house and patio. I'm going to show you something else in response to your staff report. The name of this file is Patio Smaller Than Deck. There we go. So we have our old, this is a shot from our AutoCAD file. The deck was located in June of 2014 in this location here. The patio we just located in January of 2023 in this location. That's only 280 square feet, including up around here, and the deck was 397 square feet. I appreciate, Alyssa saying that, of course, we can't take credit for something that was, coverage credit for something that was maybe enlarged without a permit. But in this case, the patio that's there now is smaller than the deck that was there in 2014. I'm not sure when that happened, because in 2014, I think is when we did the septic system upgrade. So it did happen between 14 and, let's just say 17 and 19. Anyway, so the proposed house takes up the same area as the existing house plus the patio in this location, and the septic upgrade we did in 2014, of course, is in the spot where some of the house is now, so that will be all taken out, and then the new septic system will be a septic tank over here and 3 trenches for the soil absorption system. So they're further from the resource area. This SAS, because it was fit in, was less than 100 feet from the top of the coastal bank, but more than 100 feet from the beach and things. And this one is more than 100 feet from the top of the coastal bank in here. And it is, this lot from from that seawall to the roadway is pretty flat. And there is a little bit of a drainage problem, so we have to put in a little catch basin and a leaching pit under here. We have to maintain 25 feet from the septic system to comply with Title V requirements. Other staff report comment was that the mitigation planting was planted as approved on an earlier plan. We got compliance for that. It was planted properly at the time, but it changed, and so now we're planting 18 to 20 bayberry shrubs back in here to fill that buffer back up to how it was required to be in 1991. It's under DEP number 1547. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll take it down and take your questions.
Excellent. Jen?
Yes, Tom. So clarification, you're saying the patio in the front is smaller than the deck was,
Yes.
and you're just using that square footage. You're not taking credit for the old deck.
No, just what we show on the plan of existing conditions.
Okay. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
No questions. Thank you.
Well, all right, commissioner comments or questions? Maury?
It's nice to see something move back for a change. Thank you. Other than that, no questions.
So isn't that kind of curious? Moving it back, you're not taking credit for the bigger deck. All right, what are you up to, Tom?
Yeah.
All right,
Providing something.
Making
You
your
know.
job easy.
Melissa?
Yeah, great project. Gonna be a lot of work, but I'm glad somebody's doing the right thing. Except for, of course, they're taking down an antique house. Oh, no.
Yeah, right.
That's too bad, but it's a lovely spot. Lovely spot. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
And see my note? Yeah.
Yes, I got that. Yeah, I'll tell them.
Steve?
Thank you. Yes,
You muted yourself again.
Oh, you're still muted. There you are.
you're lucky I was muted. I was just cursing myself.
As long as you weren't cursing Tom.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no. This has been a fascinating street for me. I've watched each of these houses be replaced over the last 20 years. Some just as a curious neighbor and others as a conservation member. This house is not one of the older houses on the block. The rest of the block was seasonal homes. And now they're all going to look like this, but it's a great plan. I miss the old houses, but so what? Thank you.
All right, Betsy?
No questions or comments. Thanks.
All right. Courtney?
No questions or comments.
All
I'm
right.
actually glad Tom got a non-complex site for a change.
I'm getting after 30 years. I'm getting the hang of it.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
I'll make a
you.
motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Third, eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa?
Right, tall guy.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. No good night yet, though.
Oh, you're at the end of the meeting too.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Gary V. and Janet L. Vacon, 40 Bridge Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing licensed pier. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Mike Borselli to present his project, and I am going to move Tom back into attendees for a while. You're up, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant Gary and Janet Bacon. The Bacons own a property at number 40 Bridge Street. And with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Number 40 Bridge Street contains an existing house, driveway, shed, hobby shop building, typical landscaping, lawn areas, and a licensed and approved pier, ramp, and float. The property is on the waters of Green Pond. It's on the western shore of Green Pond. And the wetland resources include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, salt marsh, non-eroding coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Two flood zones, VE15 and AE12. The Conservation Commission back in, I think, 2002 issued an order of conditions to build this dock. And then the dock was, after that, the dock went on to receive a Chapter 91 license, and it was constructed. And lo and behold, it's more than 20 years old now, and it's in need of reconstruction and replacement. The pilings are rotted. A lot of the decking is starting to get a little punky and old, and the applicant wants to basically rebuild it in the same footprint as it was licensed and approved. But we're going to take the opportunity to make some improvements to that. Some of them are required improvements. Some of them are just voluntary. And if I could briefly go through those with you, I'm going to refer you to the profile view of the dock, if I can get to it. So what we've done on this profile is we've superimposed, for reference, I hope it's not confusing, dashed line work that represents what exists out there. And it's superimposed with solid line work of, I'm sorry, the dashed is what's existing and the solid line work's what's proposed. So the first thing you'll notice is that the existing fixed pier walkway out to the float is much lower to the ground. It's certainly much less than the required separation from the salt marsh, and it's lower than the required separation to provide public access along the shore. So when we rebuild this, we're going to elevate and actually bridge the salt marsh by removing 10 pilings and reinstalling 6 pilings. We're going to increase the span and the spacing between the pilings, and at the same time, we're going to elevate the dock walkway up above the salt marsh. So you can see here that this first section, the pilings are not penetrating through the salt marsh. They allow for spanning of the salt marsh, and we're also elevating this first section 6 feet above the salt marsh, which is the Division of Marine Fisheries policy recommendation. 1.5 times the width of the walkway, or 4 multiplied by 1.5 equals 6. And then we're going to transition back down to the same level that it currently exists. And then we're going to actually shorten up the fixed pier slightly. And we're going to build or install a slightly longer ramp. The end of the float will stay in its current position. This just worked out because we're doing a 16 feet on center span, and it worked out nicely. And there's no need to, hold this position with the existing pilings. We can just replace with a new ramp. The whole deck will be fitted with through flow decking, which is the sunlight penetration decking. And then, of course, since we elevated this and you don't just walk off it to grade, we have to put a ramp back down to grade. So that's shown in plan view here. The ramp is shown here. So same footprint as approved and licensed, just rebuilt with a reduction in the number of pilings and an elevation above the salt marsh. Now come some two issues that the staff pointed out to us, and we're certainly going to address. Number one is the license for the float itself called for a 6 by 30 foot float, and lo and behold, it's actually 6 by 35 foot, so it's 5 feet longer than it's supposed to be. I think if you I measured it, it's actually 4.5, but it's longer than the approved and licensed 30 feet. So we're going to all replace this float or cut off 4.5 feet so that it measures 30 feet as was approved. There might be a new float rebuilt to 30, or it might be just retrofitted or modified so it's only 30 feet in length, same width. So we certainly will modify the plan and submit a revised plan to address that issue. The other issue that was raised by your staff was they noticed on some aerial photos that sometime in the year 2020, a change was made to this patio. This patio was smaller and more of a curved shape to it, and innocently, not with any ill intent, the applicant wanted to rebuild and square off the patio, make it a little bit more roomy and make it work with the existing deck back better, and he just took it upon himself to do that without permission. And that showed up on the aerial photos very distinctly. In fact, one of the aerials shows the patio actually being under construction, being rebuilt. Some of the materials stockpiled off to the side, things like that. So we have to deal with that. So what I intend to do is I have the old plan that was originally prepared for the dock that shows the patio as it used to be. And I'm going to superimpose that on here and do a quick analysis about where it was expanded. There are some sections of it that were expanded in a place that you could not have approved them to be expanded. And by that, I mean mainly this corner here. If I had come to you for permission to build this, I wouldn't have been able to get permission because this corner moves closer to the top of the coastal bank than the closest point of the present primary structure. So that part, if this were applied for, would not have been, you would not have been able to approve it. There are other parts of it that got bigger, more square footage, somewhat, not an extensive amount, but some slight increase. So that square footage could have been approved because it wouldn't have moved closer to the top of the bank than the closest point of the present primary structure, but that expansion would have required mitigation planting. So I'm going to do an analysis and just put notations on this plan that indicate how this will be modified, and after I consult with my client, figure out where to put the mitigation planting for the increased parts that you could have approved and apply for that as part of this application. The mitigation planting is likely going to go down here where it says lawn, so that it supplements the existing buffer. There's a pretty decent buffer to the salt marsh now, and this is the logical place to put it. But I'll come back and show you all the math and what we did to hopefully get approval to modify this unpermitted expansion. And the new plan will also have notation about the float size being reduced to 30 feet in length instead of the current length. And that sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
No, I think Mike is addressing all of the staff's concerns. Mike, you're gonna put all the other elements on the plan that we've requested, like the topo and everything else, when you update your plan.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was confused about the topo comment because the topo is on the plan. I mean, the contours are on the plan. So I was confused about that one. I was gonna talk to you folks.
Yeah, we can look, we can discuss that off
Sure.
sidebar somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, as long as those, the float is addressed and the patio is addressed.
Yeah.
Those were our concerns. So we'll just have to continue it for you to do that analysis.
Yes, and there was also there's a shell path that's
Yep.
existing and it's been there for a long time. And I don't think that's an issue. It was even on the plan that originally was approving the dock. So I'm gonna add that just for consistency between the two plans. So
Okay.
that all being said, I'm not available for a week, the second week of December, because I'm taking a week off. So I'm gonna have to ask it for a continuance to December 20th.
Okay.
Do we want to entertain comments and questions before we flat out continue this?
No, I think you should. That's why Mike wanted to present tonight, is to be able to address any additional concerns by the commission beyond the staff. So that's why he's here.
Yep.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron?
Thank you. Mike, just ignore the topo comment. I think I meant to put that on a different staff report, so.
Okay.
But yes, no other comments. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Commissioner comments, Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you. Yeah, Mike, it's nice. I haven't seen you for a while for some reason. Question about if you go to your cross section, your peer profile, need some clarification. The very end of the float, where there is that single, the single timber pile. It says replace 2 existing 12-inch diameter timber piles, but yet there's only one existing 12-inch diameter timber pile piercing the end of the float. What are you doing?
On the landward edge, if I can.
No, on the seaward edge.
Right.
There is one timber pile sort of piercing the middle of the float.
Yes.
And your dialogue says replace
That's
2.
a typo. There's
It's a
only
typo.
one. That's a typo.
Okay, so you're just replacing one,
I'm only replacing one on that end, yeah. And I'm
Okay, and
replacing the 2 on the landward end.
yeah, okay, and so and then you're gonna move it into 4.5 feet or whatever it is. Okay.
Yep.
Just I was really confused standing out there going, so where's the other one?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, and then a question. I don't know if this is something that's been overlooked or something that's been permitted in the past, but when I stepped onto the deck of the pier and then also stepped off the pier, right at the shoreline there's really big bluestone, almost foot-sized bluestone. Rip-rappy, but not really rip-rap. It's sort of been dumped there. There's probably 100, 200 pieces of it. And it goes maybe 5 or 10 feet on either side of the first part of the pier. And I can't imagine that that's supposed to be there. It's certainly not natural. It's not going onto the neighbor's coastal bank area. And it just didn't sound right. It certainly doesn't look right. Any thoughts on that?
Is it on the slope? The slope.
It's actually on the sand, between the sand and the little the foot high bank, the little mini bank there.
Yeah, I didn't really look at that or notice that too much. It might have been placed as an erosion control measure at some point in time, but
yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
And I'm guessing that nobody really knows anything about it.
Right.
Might I ask through the chair, Jen or Melissa, do you know what I'm referring to? Did you see it? down there? And would something like that ever be permitted by the Conservation Commission? I would
Melissa,
assume that. there'd
Can
be
you
a
explain
permit
that
schedule.
again? What?
So basically where we're on this plan, it
Mhm.
says ramp to grade. Basically where the decking goes from the land up over the marsh. When you look down off the ramp, off the dock, and to the shoreline, there are blocks. You know, it's bluestone. They're bigger than bricks. They're not as big as cinder blocks. Maybe some of them are the size of cinder blocks, and there's got to be 100 to 200 of them there, sort of scattered along maybe 20 feet along the shoreline, going up. I mean, I didn't jump into the water to actually see how high up they go, or I didn't jump onto the beach because there were actually paw prints on the sand there, but you know, like I don't know, raccoon paw prints or something like that, but. It looks like somebody tried to riprap the shoreline.
They may have,
Okay.
that may have
Yeah.
happened at some point in time. I have no recollection of it. It may have been there for a very long time. I don't know. It
Yeah.
wasn't even something that we noticed on the survey.
We'll
know.
check it out, Melissa. It's gonna be continued anyway, so we will check it
Yeah.
out.
So if you could check it out, that would be great, because I'm guessing that something like that would need to be permitted and mitigated for somehow.
Okay.
Thanks. That's it. No more questions.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions.
All right. Betsy?
I just have a comment. Mike, it would be helpful if you gave the lengths of the various sections of the dock.
Okay.
Doesn't he?
That's all. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Courtney?
No questions.
Okay. I don't know if that bluestone was part of a patio that was originally at the foot of that eroded over the years. That's why it's not so obvious, you know. But
Mm.
if you guys check it out, see what it is. and
Okay.
like if your client didn't know it was there, probably going to get removed anyway, or could be removed. Maury?
I figured, I saw that too, Melissa, and I thought maybe it was when they were redoing the patio that they maybe wheelbarrowed it down and dumped it. I don't know. But it should be removed out of the resource area. I don't think we want to mitigate for it. I think we want it probably gone. And then the locust map, I think the topography wasn't what I was looking at. There was just no locust map on the plan as well. And maybe I am missing it, but I didn't see it on my plan. Just housekeeping, but other than that, we'll continue it. We'll figure out the bluestone.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
So when's the continuance?
I have requested December 20th.
That work with you, Jen?
Works for me.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to continue this hearing until December 20th.
I talk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until December 20th. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye. That's coal night.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Fellow Hawks eye.
Melissa?
Bye, Tug.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until December 20th. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Is there anything known as virtual coal? I don't know. I'm gonna have to look for that.
Right.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Night, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Night, Mike.
Good night.
Have a good vacation.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, relax, Mike.
All right, next up are continued requests for hearing under notice of intent. First up, Thomas and Elizabeth Sheehy, the Quinella Group LLC, 22 Millfield Street, Woods Hole, Mass, for permission to install a dock in Eel Pond. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until January 10th.
So moved.
Bird second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until January 10th. Any questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Hot dog eye.
Steve,
Pat and I, and the date again, Mr. Chairman?
January 10th.
Thank you.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until January 10th. Can't believe we're talking about January already. All right, next up has been previously continued. Brings us to Stephen Leaf, 0 Wacoit Highway, map and parcel number 27-07-009-000, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a single-family dwelling on an undeveloped lot. And this is a continued hearing, and the quorum excludes Maury and Melissa. And that just leaves us with a quorum. How about that? Do I have that right, Alyssa? No. Of course I do. All right, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have promoted Mike Ball up to present his project. I do have another person, a Heather Leonard, that is requesting to be promoted. Oh, Heather Leaf, got it. Here I come. So Mike Ball is here. I am promoting Heather. Anybody else, Mike?
I think Steve and Janice.
I see them. Yeah, I
think
got
that
them.
should
And
be
I'm
good.
promoting Stephen Leaf. Mr. Leaf, if you can hear me, you need to accept the fact that I'm promoting you to a panelist.
They struggle a tiny bit with the technology, so.
It's okay. I'll keep working on it with the mic. Nope, he declined to be promoted.
Won't be like that.
Try one more time. I know they wanted to be promoted because they already requested it.
Heather, you may want to text them if you haven't already, just to.
I did.
I could see the telltale looking down. I know that.
Although it might overwhelm because it's more technology. So
Yeah, right.
Mr. Leaf, I see your hand right. You keep declining to be promoted to be a panelist.
Try again, he said.
Yep, I know. I'm waiting for him. Okay, I'm going to try again, sir. I think I got him in. Yes, I did. Excellent. Mr. Leaf, now you need to turn on your audio and your visual, your camera and your audio. There you go. You got your audio. And we've got the camera. Excellent.
We just, technology and us do not get along, believe me. Thank you.
Are we all set now?
Yeah, I think it's,
Can we see?
don't know.
All right. Who's going to start, Mr. Ball?
We can't see everything though, can we?
Yeah, Steve and Janice, if you can just put it on mute for a second.
Okay, 1 minute,
I
please.
don't,
James,
Okay, hold
Mr.
on.
Chairman, I think I'll start unless Jen wanted or Alyssa wanted to.
okay,
There they go.
You're up.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman, commission members and staff. Mike Ball from Marsh Matters Environmental, representing Stephen Janice Leaf. This was a single family, as you recall, a single family house construction project on a 2-acre lot that abuts the applicant's existing property, both of which abut the Childs River. So at the first hearing, we had discussions regarding the location of the house footprint and limit of work. This project, it really revolves around riverfront area, performance standards and regulations. In summary, basically, the Leafs have owned this property for 40 years and have always planned to develop it, and they're in a position to do so now, and would like to build a modest house in line with their existing house. And that's what the plans have shown you. And since our first submittal back in, I believe, September, working with Engineering Works and the Leaf, we've moved everything back a total of 20 feet from what it originally was, not completely out of the riverfront area. We've reduced the footprint of the limit of work, or rather the amount of work in the riverfront area, down to a total of 3,616 square feet. We've gone from maintaining a natural buffer of between 130 and 150 feet to now 150 and 170 feet of undisturbed buffer. But this really revolves around the alternatives analysis information, the discussion in our correspondence and at the last hearing was regarding the standard, which is the no practicable and substantially equivalent economic alternative considerations. So what we've submitted to most recently, is a good amount of information, and the Leafs and I do appreciate you allowing a continuance at the last hearing to kind of gather some of this information, review the plans, modify them even further. So we appreciate you allowing us this time. So specifically, I'll try to be as brief as possible. In the riverfront regulations, we all love those 21 pages of text. The standard is that there must be no practicable and substantially equivalent economic alternative to a proposed project with less adverse effects on the Wetlands Protection Act interest. That's a quote from the regs. So for this project, I think we all agree that the alternative of the project being placed completely outside of the riverfront area is practicable, as it is available and capable of being done, or is feasible. That's also from the regulations. So therefore, in this matter, the burden is really on the applicant and their consultant to demonstrate that the alternative of placing their house project completely outside of the riverfront area, as opposed to partially within, is not substantially equivalent from an economic or cost to them perspective, or cost to the Leafs perspective. So since the last hearing, the applicants have gathered and submitted information to you that, in my opinion, taken together, does sufficiently demonstrate that the alternative of moving every aspect of the project outside of riverfront area and closer to Route 28 would not be, from the Leafs perspective, a substantially equivalent economic alternative in terms of economic cost to them. So I'm looking at a letter that you also have from Ranger Construction specific to the cost of a necessary retaining wall. Construction of that wall would add approximately $50,000 to the total project costs if the house were closer to Route 28. I'll just remind you that the Leafs are funding this project with their retirement funds. I think that's significant to mention. So when I talk about tens of thousands of dollars, from their perspective, it's significant costs. The Leafs also obtained a quote from Pavey and Sons, which this is actually Steve Leaf Jr. provided this. I don't think you have a copy of this letter because I don't believe it was submitted. But basically, what they indicate in this quote is that moving the project closer to Route 28 would require additional tree removal, topsoil replacement and grading, and replacement of natural plantings, all resulting in roughly $65,000 in additional project costs. I think it's also worth considering that the alternative, having the house closer to Route 28 and not in the least preferred location, would definitely mean a property of significantly less value. They asked an appraiser to provide those comparison numbers, and those have been provided to you. So if you, like me, believe that the Leafs have provided a sufficient amount of information to demonstrate that placing the project completely outside of riverfront area and closer to Route 28 is not a substantially equivalent economic alternative, then this allows you to move on to considering the no significant adverse impact requirement part of the riverfront area performance standards. And as explained in my cover letters that were submitted with the plan revisions, we do meet, this project does meet those requirements A, B, C, and D. I won't go into those unless you'd like to discuss those further. Heather Leonard is on the call. Heather is the Leaf's daughter. You may know Heather Leaf. She actually worked as an intern with the Falmouth Conservation Commission, and I think she had some comments she'd like to make. And she did submit an exhibit that should be in your packet. Heather, would you like to say something?
Sure, thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Commission, for your time and for your volunteerism on this important work. You won't find something submitted from me. It was only on behalf of the family in the packet. So if you're looking, you're not missing anything. And as Mark mentioned, it's a pleasure to be back with this group, having spent some of my formative years when I was pursuing my degree in environmental conservation, interning under Mark for the Conservation Commission. So again, thank you all for your service. The few words I just want to say is providing the context. As you've heard significantly from the family, so I'm not going to spend time repeating things that have already been shared or submitted to your commission. Just want to reinforce the context of the why and the reason for my family's intent to continue to try to hear the feedback, come back and try to find those points of compromise in order to continue to have an effective dialogue with you. The family as a whole really, we've all been raised to really value and prioritize our ecological surroundings and be environmentally aware and be good stewards of the land. And so hopefully you've had a chance to visit the property and you get a chance to see that there really is, it is the wilds of that waterside area that we really, the joys of their grandchildren being there over Thanksgiving and seeing the wild animals running through the yard and the pictures that they get to see after. So it truly is a place that the family as a whole has valued as a ecological area and a place that they've raised their family and hope to continue for generations to come. And as you've heard, this is their goal is to retire in this land that they have protected, that they have fostered, and that they have taken great care of. And the goal with these adjoining properties is also so that they continue to support generations, so that we as families can enjoy this area that is waterfront and enjoy the beauties that come with it while continuing to maintain and care for the land around us. And the benefit that we have living in this area is that we have the pleasure of taking the guidelines by the Wetland Protections Act, but yet you as a group being empowered to make the decisions using the information, the context you have at hand. So we appreciate you considering not only the numbers and the facts, which we know are important, but then also the context and the history of the site and the why. Through all of the different work, they've come back and taken those components and tried to find those points of compromise. So we appreciate your time and hope that you can support the family's request to continue to live and to retire on this piece of property while maintaining that natural setting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Leaf, anything you'd like to add at this point?
Yes. I apologize. I was not aware that last piece of estimate for work was going to be submitted. I didn't realize that. So I apologize for that. If I just may clarify a couple of things on the staff comments, because we did spend a fair amount of time and effort to come up with what we submitted to you. On Exhibit A from the real estate appraiser, it says home. That was strictly for the land, what he considered to be the reduced value of the land if we built outside of the 200-foot buffer, strictly land. The real estate broker is the one, her estimate was for a house and land. And that should have been on her letter. It says a $250,000 swing between if we were closer to the river or closer to the road, not 200, 250. And then the excavation was the other 50. So in our mind, we thought it was going to cost us more to get a house that was worth less. And that's a $300,000 swing. I consider that, and I think most people would consider that, very expensive, very excessive. With that being said, I hope all of you are able to walk the property, because I think that would show the reason for us trying to place the house where we are. The natural topography of it lends itself perfectly for a walkout basement in that corner. And there's a theme of 36 in my mind that goes with this property. I was a young man when we bought this, meaning I was 36 years old with 3 young children. To say it was a stretch then, it was. And to hold on to it for this many years, it's obviously cost money. That was 36 years ago. I'm old now. We want to build a house so we can rest in peace. Excuse me.
Retired.
Age in place. The initials are almost the same. I apologize. Age in place. This is not something we intend to sell. We're not going to sell. If anything, it's going to be to our children. I think my last name is Leaf. I love trees. To say I've planted 100 on my property is an understatement. I have planted almost annually trees. And where the house is located, I'd say about 1/3 of those trees we actually planted because it was naturally unforested by Mother Nature. There wasn't much there. To move the house completely outside of the 200-foot buffer, 200 with a 10-foot, 210 with a buffer, twice as many mature trees will have to come down. I understand that's out of your jurisdiction, but I'm telling you, I would not be cutting down any more trees than I had to, any more that I would ever come back and ask you to put a pool in the backyard. That's not something that we are going to do. And I think also, if you saw the letter from the environmental engineer, there's a natural wildlife corridor that's going to be affected if we have to move the house outside. And I think that would just be a shame. And the vista, he said we could always come back and apply for a vista. Well, if we have a vista, the only thing we're going to be able to see is the land on the other side of the river, because the river isn't wide. We'll be looking straight across it. We won't be looking at it. And that's the whole object that we've had it, kept it natural as many years as we have. And the final 36 is, the lot is 180 feet wide. They come 200 feet back from the river or 200 feet with a buffer. That's 36,000 square feet of land. Guaranteed most of the lots between here and Falmouth that are on the water are not close to that much acreage. It's a huge piece. 36,000. We are asking for 3,600, just 10% back of our property so we can place the house where I think it's the best spot ecologically, everything. It just, I don't think we're asking for much. We've lived here, we've heard how long we've been here, and I don't want to say I want to die here, but we want to be able to live in the house and live in this property as long as we can. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. All right, commissioner comments. Betsy.
What about staff comments, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry. Relax.
I'm just letting you know. May I?
Go ahead. Oh, please do.
Thank you. spend a lot of time preparing the staff reports and reviewing the information provided to provide the commission with a accurate staff report and not being provided with a significant piece of information used to sway the board's decision and being presented with it at the night of a hearing without having the benefit of reviewing it, I think is very unfortunate for this board. Costs, I mean, again, the house can be sited outside. I understand, Mr. Leaf, that you think it's a $350 swing. I get that. Unfortunately, cost associated with the, and I quote, costs do not include anticipated profits after a project purpose is achieved or expenditures to achieve the project purpose prior to receiving the order. So unfortunately, market value of a house is not going to be considered as cost. So we can factor in the cost of the from Ranger construction and excavation, and look at the cost associated with that. And apparently there's additional costs that the staff is unaware of. But again, the anticipated profits should not be a factor in this commission's decision, unfortunately. So I think the staff's recommendation about the house being placed outside the riverfront, we're going to stand by that recommendation. We have to be consistent with the regs. Unfortunately, Mr. Leaf, I understand that, you don't have any interest in cutting down the trees. We have to look at the property between the house and the street. We have to look long-term at a property, not just with a current property owner, but potentially future property owners. And there's nothing that's going to stop a future property owner from clearing the land from the house to the road. Unfortunately, we just can't factor in the costs of removing trees that are outside of our jurisdiction. We can only focus what's within our jurisdiction. So again, the staff's recommendation is going to stand that the house should be located all disturbance fully outside that 200-foot riverfront area. And next time, Mike, please make sure all the information you're going to present to the commission is presented to the staff.
Everything was submitted, Jen, except for that one letter that Steve's son had submitted yesterday.
Yeah, except.
I'm sorry.
But that's an important piece of cost analysis that you're using to sway this board's decision without the benefit of the board seeing it or the staff seeing it.
Yeah, and I take issue a little bit, Jen, at just saying swaying the board's decision. I don't really care for that word. We're just trying to provide you with as much information as we can to put the applicant's project and interests in fair light. So we're not trying to sway anybody. We're just trying to
understand, Mike.
My perspectives. Maybe you wanted to use a different word, and I apologize for not submitting that letter.
You didn't provide it.
It didn't get into my hands until yesterday. I suppose I could have emailed it to you yesterday. But I hope, I certainly wasn't saying anything that wasn't in that letter, and I'm certainly being truthful that the information that I told you from that letter is true and accurate. But I totally understand everything that we submitted a week ago did not include that letter, and that was unfortunate. Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron.
No other comments. Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Hello? Yes.
Yep.
Again, the profit motive. We're not building this for profit. When we pass, it's going to go to our children. So I think the profit motive, I understand what you're saying, but there is no profit motive. Our children are getting, you've heard from 2 out of the 3, they love the property. They're not going to clear cut anything. And again, I think the amount of trees that have got to come down, and I do believe there is flexibility for disturbance in the riverfront zone. And we're only asking for 3,600 out of 36,000. I mean, I think it's pretty minimal.
We're the only stretch along this whole road that people have kept natural along Route 28 if you drive by us. We've always been like that. And we love living here and we've lived here for 40 years and we've protected this environment and we want to keep it natural. But we want to be able to retire our final years along how we have lived for the past 40 around the surroundings we're in. It just is heartbreaking. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all good. All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy,
Did you give Alyssa a chance to talk?
I did. She declined.
Okay, so I have a couple of comments. First of all, I appreciate the fact that the staff takes the most rigorous position for what they see as the best protection of the environment. That said, I went out to visit the area, and it is a spectacular area, but I beg to differ with Jen. I can't imagine anybody would cut the vegetated buffer between Wacoit Bay and where the house is going to be, because actually it does modify the noise. There's a lot of noise on Wacoit Highway. And so anyway, I went out to the site and it is spectacular. And when I got out to where I could see the river, it was nice just to stand there for a while. It was very peaceful. And your argument, Mike, your presentation convinced me even before you gave any additional information tonight that I think this is a reasonable request. That's all, Jamie.
All right. Courtney.
I've sat in on this hearing since the beginning, and I really empathize with the Leafs dilemma. This is a tough one, quite honestly. And basically, I substantially agree with Betsy on this. I think that by and large, maybe not to the nth degree, but I think in the spirit of it, it satisfies what we're looking for. I think, and part of my prejudice, I guess, goes to the fact that I'm kind of in the same place that the Leafs are at age 83. And so I hear their concerns loud and clear. No other questions.
Wow, Steve, he just called you old. All right. So,
which Steve?
Not you, Steve.
I
call myself old.
Agree. I think the alternate analysis was helpful. I appreciate you moving the house a little bit. So I don't really have a problem with this. Mike, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice for your next project. Make sure there's some signage out there. Make sure the staking is adequate. And you did that bright green ribbon outline, except you did it after we all went and visited the site. So maybe next time do that sooner. That helps your cause. So hopefully you take that in the spirit it's intended, which is positive. All right, Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I decided to go visit the site again this week, and the markings are very helpful. I would say my analysis was that the ideal site was their first site, but it can't be done. The revision, I think, meets much of my expectation for this site. I remember another project in this neighborhood and thought that this site had been damaged previously, but it was a site a little farther to Childs River that I was thinking of. The loss of the many trees balance, I think is the trade-off that I'm willing to accept. That their other site, that the second proposed site is acceptable to me. And Betsy, the cemetery does look fabulous.
It looks great, doesn't it?
I didn't mean for
You
that
must-
comment. Across the street, I parked over in Wacoit and walked over. Dangerous walk. Excuse me, Mr.
Well-
Chairman, for going on. I'm
Yeah,
done.
we're both on the CPC, and that's a CPC project.
Okay.
Cemeteries, rest in peace. I want to finish my days here. I don't know, man. All right, back to business. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat comments, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify one thing that Betsy said. Betsy, you meant nobody's going to cut down trees between the house and Wacoit Highway, not Wacoit Bay.
With the base on it.
Correct,
Okay,
Correct.
just wanted to clarify that.
correct.
I'm just like, did she hear me right? So, okay, that's it.
All right,
Well, I learned something else from this, which I should always take my phone when I'm on site visits by myself, but especially this one when I tripped over some bullbriar out there. But it's a very soft, it's a very soft landing. So I'll
Mr.
make a
Chairman.
motion. Oops. Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Didn't mean to cut you off, Betsy, sorry.
all right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we're going to vote to close the hearing. Mrs. Leaf, you good?
Yes, I did. What goes forward now?
So, Mr. Leaf,
Closed, and we,
okay, go on, Chairman.
I never, I'm before you people in decades, so I don't even know what the next step is.
so the next step is we a motion and a second at the moment to close the hearing. That means the hearing is closed. There's no more testimony. There's no more anything. So there's nothing else to offer. There's nothing else we would ask. And then as soon as next week's meeting, we would do what we call vote orders of conditions. And that's where I keep you in suspense. We're going to decide what conditions should be applied to the project. And just in fairness, so you know the whole process, that's the point where it could be voted against. Again, just so you know the process. So closing the hearing is a positive step.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we have a motion. Who's speaking? All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Steve,
Pat and I.
it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you all.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Next up has been previously continued, brings us to request to amend an existing order of conditions. Sandra L. Stows and Robert J. Volpe Jr., Sandra L. Stows Trust, 115 Lucerne Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4851 to reduce the driveway and the amount of mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Bunker is here to present his project. Tom, long time no
Again?
see.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, good to be here again. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, and I will share my screen.
Thank you. So
this project was approved to construct a garage. And let me see if I can get in here without making anyone nauseous. So actually, I don't even out. Sorry. Let me see if I have it on here. So we had pavement coming down to the driveway, came down to this dashed line here. So you had one more parking space alongside the garage to this previous proposed pavement here. There was existing pavement down here. This was all pavement. Of course, it's not now, and there's a garage going in here, but we had proposed it to be here. And we're taking out up to this line. So this would be the new edge of the pavement here. We had a drain. Well, it's that one label I didn't move. This drain was proposed down at this location, and now it's going up into the corner of the pavement. So that's 112 square feet. And there's a little bit more pavement proposed up here. So it will look like this. Basically, this will be loamed and seeded, the drought tolerant grass seed. We have the new little catch basin in here, going to the same drainage structures right down here. So it's 112 square feet. Let me see where that is.
So with us, Tom?
Yeah, I'm with you, but my head isn't total. Sometimes I rate these things up, and then if I don't study them enough in time. So there's in zone A, the total is subtracted the decrease in the driveway from the proposed is 112 square feet here, 48 square feet in zone A, and 64 square feet in zone B. And then added another 12 square feet in zone B. So overall, there's a decrease of 55 square feet in zone A and a decrease of 5 square feet in zone B. So from the previous calculations, that now comes out to 160. Well, it's the total decrease is 55 square feet, so tripled is 165 square feet of mitigation required, where before it was in the 300s, actually 400 and some square feet of mitigation. So now we've reduced the mitigation to 165 square feet. Where are we? Right here. So starting in here is basically in this location where everything is the closest to the water. We're proposing 165 square feet here, and before there was 400 and some square feet running along. But with the reduction in pavement, that's what will be required. So I'll take that down and take your questions.
Thank you, sir. Jen?
No comment. Thank
Ms.
you, Tom.
Bergeron?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments or questions? I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to poll everyone. Betsy?
No questions, thanks.
Courtney?
No questions.
Maury?
No questions.
Melissa?
I'm trying to place which property this is. Is this the one with the little beach in the corner, or is this the one with the dog fence in it?
It had a little sandy area in the
Okay. Is that
corner
one?
north of this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Steve?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat.
I'll make a motion, close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Frog eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you all.
Night,
And now I'll
Tom.
say good night.
Night, Tom.
All right,
Night, Tom.
see you in a week or two.
Next up, continued requests for a certificate of compliance. Quistit Harbor House Land Trust, Inc., 71 Quistit Harbor Road and 18 Cary Lane, Falmouth, Mass. Request for a certificate of compliance for Mass DEP number 25-4396. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Joe Waller up, and Joe, am I promoting Nick as well?
Yes, please.
Yep, I just tried to. Okay. Nick Crawford up. Is Dana joining us as well?
Yeah, you could promote him. I think he's here.
Okay, Nick declined to be promoted, so I'll promote Dana. Nick, I'm gonna try you one more time. If you decline, then I will stop. Nope, Nick's coming. Okay. I don't know why it does that sometimes.
it should be kind of simple, no?
No. Hello, Dana. So I was not here when this was presented to you, but this was a certificate of compliance that went out to review. When we were out there, there was a substantial number of low bush blueberry that we could not locate. Therefore, we were uncomfortable granting compliance at the time, which prompted the project team to request compliance directly from the commission. I hope you all had a chance to go out there and review the site, and we await what you would like us to do. Unless, Alyssa, do you have anything to add on that? Nope. Okay.
All right. I don't know that we want to start with commission comments, so I don't know who would want to start, Dana or Joe, or if you want to just jump to commission comments.
Yeah, I think we could jump right to commission comments.
Be much more efficient. Thank you.
I concur. Yep.
All right. Commissioner comments, Betsy.
Yeah, so I went out to the site and it was really nice restoration. It's a beautiful site. Two comments. One is I don't think low bush blueberry was a good choice as a restoration plant in this area. And I think a lot of these grasses, these aggressive grasses will overgrow stuff. I don't think it would be good for the site now to go back in and try to replant. Well, certainly not low bush blueberry, but I don't think it should be disturbed at this site. But if you do want to mow the area, there are areas where there are woody shrubs that are surrounded by some of the grassland, and those should be clearly identified when the mowing takes place. So anyway, so I guess the bottom line is that I would grant compliance, but with suggestions as to further maintenance of the area.
Okay. All right. And I neglected to mention the quorum. I have Courtney is not on this hearing. All right. I agree with everything Betsy said. I have similar concerns, just simply the mowing. I think there has to be some plan in place so that it's not, if you will, literally mowed down. Maury,
I concur with Betsy, and I think the mowing should probably be, if there is mowing that's gonna be allowed, that they contact Concom, the agent or administrator, so that we can maybe supervise or at least make sure that it isn't just clear cut mowed down, because obviously the low bush blueberry are non-existent, and the ones, anything that is surviving out there should be protected. And I'm afraid that if it's not marked, that they will just be mowed. But it was a great restoration project. It really looks nice, except for that little hiccup with the overrunning of the low bush blueberry with the aggressive grasses. But next time we'll make sure we don't do low bush blueberry. We do viburnum or something a little more substantial, but it's a nice project. Thank you.
all right. Melissa,
So aggressive grasses, I'd say, is an understatement. those were. I felt like I was in Tick Central out there when I was out there. It's a pretty spot, very pretty spot, pretty sight. But I can't help but think about the before out pictures and the after pictures, and your original plans for 115 1-gallon blueberries bushes. And the whole time out there, I was wondering, gee, if they had planted 3-gallon blueberry bushes, would they have survived? It's a thought. And I don't know. I was also thinking the whole time that if I were your client, I'd be demanding replantings. I'd be like, where are my woody shrubs? So I don't know. I think there needs to be some kind. I walked all over that place, and I saw 3 goldenrod, maybe, and at least in the part that says that it's going to be redone. And I even saw some grapevines still out there, but I didn't see anything that looked like woody shrubs. In fact, there's a whole cluster in the corner that's supposed to be cedar trees that are supposedly still there, or juniper trees. I didn't see any of that stuff either in the lower. Well, I don't know which direction this is facing, but let's just say the lower right-hand corner and of the plan. And I would think that we would want you to plant some larger woody shrubby somethings in there. I actually have in my notes 3-gallon blueberry bushes, but I was wondering what happened to the 4 trees that are in the lower corner of the plan too, because they don't seem to be there, or if they are there, they've been completely taken over by the grasses, and those trees are a lot smaller than the plan says. So I'd like to see something other than just those grasses in there. And it didn't even dawn on me that somebody would think about mowing that. So yeah, if heaven forbid it does get mowed in the state it's in, someone needs to go out and find every little thing that's out there first and stake it. But yeah, I would, if I were your client, I'd want to see at least 50 plants go in, half of what was called for originally. But I'm not your client. That's about it for my thoughts when I was out there.
thank you. Steve,
I think this has been a fascinating site to watch it evolve since we originally reviewed it, and it's come up. I get a chance when there's no guard there to take a look at it, other than on our regular sites. And I think it's working out pretty good. It's not what we planned or asked for, but I think it represents a functional environment. So I would move to issue approval.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Jen?
Joe or Nick, can one of you explain to me how the mowing will take place, and what are the safeguards against mowing the shrub material that's buried in there or on the bank, or so how that mowing would take place?
Yeah. Nick Crawford from Crawford Land Management. So I mean, we could certainly go through and identify the areas of native woody vegetation before we mow it. I know that, you know, personally, if it was us completing the mowing, you know, our personnel have firsthand knowledge of where the shrubs are. It would be a combination of a walk behind flail mower. It wouldn't be a large piece of equipment that would be mowing. I believe it's only 30 inches wide. So it'd be a combination of a walk behind flail mower, and handheld brush cutters or weed whackers. So, you know, those are the the two tools that we would use to mow the area. We can certainly identify, you know, the areas of native woody vegetation before we mow it, before we go through there. And that's likely something we would do anyway.
Okay, so Nick, the idea is just to mow the grasses, correct?
Yeah, always just the grasses.
Just the
We would
grasses?
mow-
Okay,
yeah,
just because
yeah,
I just wanted some clarification, the board's saying to, you know, do it. So, okay, so it would just be the grasses, just mow the switch grasses, and you would go out and identify the stands of the shrubs first and make sure those were easily identified before sending your crew out there.
correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Maury?
I just had, after that discussion, how often do you mow it and why is it being mowed?
I think the purpose of mowing is, at the beginning was twofold. One was to encourage warm season grasses, which I clearly has been done, and two, in order to give the shrubs a little more room to grow before the grasses grow up around them each season. Those are, you know, basically the two reasons to give the shrubs time to establish before the grasses grow up around them. So, you know, by leaving the grasses standing during the winter, you know, we do allow for wildlife habitat when those grasses get snow on them and get weighed down and bend over and create hollows underneath them. They do create wildlife habitat. And then in the spring, I would suggest, I personally, I would suggest a mowing, basically right away in the spring to remove kind of the previous year's growth. And then I would suggest a mowing later on in, depending on, you know, environmental conditions, sometime in mid to late June, after the switchgrass and warm season grasses had started to grow, but before they have put up their seed spikes. And that way that would limit the overall height of the switchgrass, little blue stem, and other warm season grasses during the growing season by cutting them down more or less, you know, 20% of the way through the times they begin to grow once it gets warm out.
So after listening to Melissa, now that you're going to be mowing it basically as a field, and most of the blueberry bushes, am I correct, have expired in that area? Would it not be prudent to maybe at that point plant something more substantial woody? I mean, not maybe the 150 or whatever it was blueberries, but just something to outcompete the grasses? Because what it seems like to me that's going to happen is it's going to be a meadow. Because the only thing in there, am I correct, are the low bush blueberries?
There's there's a mix of beach plum, bayberry, clethra. There are all of the cedars that were originally planted are still existing. So there are portions of it that are predominantly grasslands, but there are also matrices of woody material within the
Because I don't remember that being proposed to us as a grassland. It was
the original plan did have grassland as part of the matrix.
Okay. All right, thank you. It is pretty grassy. It's pretty much a meadow.
You're good?
Yeah, I just think that
All right.
after 5 years, I wish we had known this before, because we maybe could have implemented to you know, they've been watching this project for 5 years, that maybe they could have been a little more proactive with the over competing of the grasses killing out the woody shrubs. And not when you want compliance. And now it's established. And I understand what Betsy's saying is to go in there and muck around might not, it might just encourage more invasives to come back. But yes, I'm all done. And I think we need to have a mowing schedule. Like they just go in and mow anytime they want to mow.
All right. Melissa.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to piggyback on what Maury was just saying. I was looking at, you can't really see, I had a very difficult time reading this because, of course, this is what printed out on my computer, but you folks get a general idea. The stuff within the pink. I was under the impression that that's where most of the blueberries and the shrubbery bushes were supposed to be. Is that correct?
The blueberries were planted along the boardwalk to the beach. They were
over here,
close on center. They're right at the edge. Those.
So they're in there.
They were there. That's where they were planted.
Okay, so there was nothing woody that was planted in here.
There was, that's where the cedars are planted, the clethra are planted, and then we also planted bayberry and beach plum within the existing cherries and other woody material that was existing.
And so these guys in the corner here, they're supposed to be juniper cedars. I was having a very difficult time finding them, and I guess I just assumed that they were going to be, you know, large-ish because it says that they're 6 to 8 feet. And I mean, did those make it in?
Those are all there, and they're all thriving now.
So they're further further from the edge of the property than what I was looking at, or than what the plan says. Is that?
Yeah, the plan is, we would call it diagram, but they're roughly in the area of where they're proposed to be. They might not be exactly at the edge of the road there, but they are in that vicinity. Okay, because again, I think if you are going to mow that area, I think that would be I mean, I don't know, walking through the whole area, I didn't see a lot of woody shrubbery, just cedars. And I would think that would be a time to, you know, plant some larger woody shrubs into the area, because I mean, if this is supposed to be some kind of conservation piece, then I mean, mowing it is going to open it up to people actually walking in it and using it. And I don't know if that's actually a purpose for it or not. So, you know, I would like to see some woody shrubberies go in there at some point when it's mowed, as you know, continue increasing the biodiversity back there. That's it. And thanks for clarifying where the blueberries were supposed to have been. But I mean, out of 115 blueberries, that none of them showed up, or that none of them survived. I mean, lucky bunnies.
Yeah, and in all fairness, it's low bush blueberry. It's not high bush blueberry. So this is a woody shrub that's probably, you know, 10 to 12 inches high at maximum. So they aren't 8 to 12 inches.
Okay, well, the ones that I have in my backyard are bigger, but they're sort of
those
forested,
are probably
I guess.
high bush blueberry.
No, they're not. They're not bigger than my niece, but still, it's yeah, no, lucky bunnies. Yeah, maybe something else that they won't devour right away. Okay, that's it. I'm not going to say anymore.
Betsy.
I know I'm the one who probably wants to end this meeting quicker than anybody else, but I just want to give a shout out for grasslands. Mark and the state has been putting a tremendous amount of effort into restoring grasslands in the northern part of our town. It's one of the, I mean, I can tell you species of birds that were here when I came here 25 years ago that aren't here anymore, because many of the patches of grasslands have turned into forest. So I think this is a good restoration. It's a nice spot. I think it's maturing. I mean, restoration is, you have restoration construction, but then things change. Mother Nature and Father Time, things are going to evolve over time.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, so Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking for a motion to issue an order of compliance
Correct.
Certificate of compliance.
and then vote for it or not.
Correct.
All right, any other comments?
I'll
All
make a
right,
motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue a certificate of compliance. That's what we're voting for. Betsy,
Clodfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa. Melissa?
Yeah, Freitag abstain. Yeah.
Okay. Steve?
Aye.
All right. 4 positive, 1 abstention. We have issued a certificate of compliance. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, Courtney, you're back in. We have 2 pieces of other business to discuss. It's actually 1 topic, but there's going to be 2 votes required. Unless you're not comfortable voting tonight, we'll bring it up again. This is regarding funding for our part-time agent to become full-time. So I'm going to let Jen explain it further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on October 16th, the Board of Selectmen voted to upgrade the part-time position to full-time. Unfortunately, given the timing of that vote, we were unable to put in to an article to supplement the FY budget at November town meeting. We then submitted a request to the Finance Committee for a reserve fund transfer to fund the conversion of the part-time to full-time for the remainder of the fiscal year. We are currently in FY 24. Unfortunately, that was not the chairman of the Finance Committee felt that it wasn't an extraordinary or unforeseen expense. So we were not granted that reserve fund transfer. The finance director was looking around at different funding sources for the position and found a dormant conservation trust fund, the origins of which I am unaware of, that has substantial funding on it that can only be used for conservation purposes, and the funds can only be used with a vote of the Conservation Commission. So at this time, I am requesting that this board make a motion to allocate $30,000 from that Conservation Trust Fund to pay for salary and wages necessary to change the part-time to full-time for the remainder of FY 24, which would be up until July 1st. We would start to advertise the position, just given the holidays and everything. I'm working with personnel. We think ideally the best time to advertise it would be right after the first of the year, get somebody in, train them, and then they would become a second full-time agent. The second part of my request is to, again, FY 25 is going to be a very difficult budget to balance given the approval of the additional firefighters needed to man the Sandwich Road Station. And it would be easier to, in considering that the full-time position, this is the first time town meeting would be seeing the second full-time agent position. I would ask that we allocate 65,000 again from this conservation trust fund to pay for salary and wages and benefits necessary to fund the a full-time position during fiscal FY25, which would be July 1st of 2024 to July 1st of 2025. This is exciting. We have a funding source, and I hope you will all get behind using this dormant conservation trust fund to fund this position for us. If not, the staff is going to have to wait until July 1st of next year, 2024, to get another agent into the office, and we really need the assistance right now.
Well, either way, it would be July of 25 because, right? Because if we don't take these funds, we have to go to town meeting.
It will be different.
Wouldn't be until.
Mm-hmm. It would
So
be
where's the 30,000
budgets.
Do you need those both? Do you need those as separate votes?
Yes.
Questions? Melissa?
Couple of questions, clarifications. Has town council looked at this, the verbiage of the trust fund? And
Finance director has looked at it, town council has looked at it. It has been approved by the town manager, the town accountant, and the vice chair, the chair and the vice chair of the Board of Selectmen, and the chair of the finance committee.
Great. That's all I needed to hear.
I got every chair and managed financial advisor for the town approving this.
Okay, and so now I got a little confused when you started talking about. I mean, I got the idea of the 30,000. That's for somebody until that's a new hire.
Correct.
The 65,000 that does not start until July 1. That is for fiscal year 2025. Then that you're asking, is it for the same position or is it for a second?
The same person. It's the same person for the next year.
Betsy, I'm sorry, I didn't understand if it was two people we were hiring or one.
No.
Okay.
One person.
One person. It's the same person. So then, I am wondering if it wouldn't behoove us to. Well, I mean, we don't know what you're not sharing publicly like this, the balance of this trust fund. Are we talking this 30,000? Is this 1% of the trust fund, more of the trust fund? I mean, are we talking
10% of the trust fund?
Okay.
So, why does that matter?
Yeah,
why does it matter? This is to improve conservation.
I know, but you're talking to a former finance committee person and a town meeting member. Okay, and I'm thinking that it would be better maybe if it takes just a lickety split to have the Concom approve this. Wouldn't it be better to go to town meeting and get it into the town meeting budget? Because 65,000 actually just covers salary. It doesn't cover benefits and things like that too. And so where does all that come from, Jen? Or does it, Jen?
Okay. Let me speak, Melissa. Yeah. And I understand. And I'm going to try to explain this the best I can from talking with the finance director. 65,000 would be just basically, it's part of the allocation to fund the overall budget, just like the Wetlands Protection Fund. They move money out of that fund into our quote unquote line item each year, like they move the embarkation funds from the Steamship Authority into police and fire each year. It's just moving money out of the fund to help balance the overall budget of the town. I'm not saying that 65 is going to be taken out every year after that. It's just an FY25. It's a very difficult budget to manage, and this would just assist assist the town in balancing the budget. And it would be listed out in the front page of the warrant booklet, just like the embarkation fees are, just like the wetland fees are. The position is in the FY25 proposed budget for April town meeting. It's already in the budget. This is just a way to help balance the overall budget of the town.
Okay, so this isn't actually replacing it from the omnibus budget. It's actually a funding mechanism for
Correct.
it. We're not, and we'll still be writing it into the town budget.
Correct.
Okay, because 30K doesn't. I mean, that they're in 65K doesn't cover the full cost of having an employee. That's just the
Correct.
salary. That's okay. Wanted to make sure.
Correct.
Thank you. That's
Not a
it.
problem.
Thank you. Isn't it great?
Just remember that
money's there?
this figures are going on top of what already exists for the part-time position.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah. I'd actually, I'd sort of like to see this. If we're discussing this tonight, I'd sort of like to see it in two motions just to keep it.
We already
Well,
said
it
we
is going to be
would.
in two
It already
motions.
is.
Just,
Okay.
all right.
I'll make a motion to transfer
Hold on.
30,000.
Hold on.
Thank you. I'm done.
I have a question.
Calling your name and you're ignoring me.
We couldn't hear
Can't
you, Jamie.
Jamie. We didn't hear
Well-
you.
Okay.
So can I just get one quick clarification? Not that I'm opposed to this. I think it's great. I'm going to vote for it. So the town is already funding a part-time position for X dollars. Is
Correct.
that correct? For
Correct.
this year.
Correct.
And the town is already funding a part-time position for X dollars next fiscal year. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Correct.
What we're saying is we're gonna take money out of this fund,
Correct.
put it in the general fund so that it will allow for that position now to be full-time.
Correct.
That's that's what I want to understand.
Correct.
Sounds like a great plan. I vote for it. I guess I have to have a motion. Betsy, you better make a motion.
I
All
did
right.
make a
Hold-
motion.
Can you hear
I'll
me?
second it.
Yes. Yes, Jamie, we can hear you.
Okay, so there's some legalese that of the way this motion has to be said. So I'm going to read it. Now, this is for the first part. Remember, there's two votes. So number one is whoever, I'm going to make a motion to allocate $30,000 the conservation fund for the wages and benefits necessary to change the conservation part-time position to full-time.
So
That's
moved.
thank you. That's just the legalese way of putting it, okay? All right. So we have the motion.
Second.
I'll
All
second.
right. We have a motion and we have a second. Again, this is for the first part, which will cover us for fiscal year 24.
Correct.
All right. We're voting for the $30,000 piece. Let's see.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Third eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Frog guy.
Steve. It is unanimous. We have approved line item 1. Line item 2, the motion I'm going to read is whoever it is makes a motion to allocate $65,000 from the conservation fund to pay for the wages and benefits necessary to fund for the conservation part-time position change to full-time for all of fiscal year 2025.
So moved.
Third, second.
All right, again, Melissa?
Are we gonna have a problem when town realizes that we have this trust fund? Are we gonna be forced to spend it down?
They're the ones that told us about it.
It's my understanding that the finance committee, and I don't want to speak on them, that they have requested that the town spend down dormant funds. So that is what the town is attempting to do.
So the short answer is we don't anticipate there would be any problems.
Correct.
We can always make it less dormant on other issues.
That is an item that's on the floor now. There's a motion and a second on the floor.
Yeah, and it's open for discussion now. It's and
All right.
so I asked the question. And yeah, okay, I just wanted to clarify that before we vote.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve line item 2. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Third eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Frog guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have approved line item 2. Jen, I think that covers us legally.
It does, and Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make one statement. Kristen, I will email you that language. That language does need to be into the minutes. So it does, so I do need to submit the minutes to the town accountant. So I will send you the email that Jamie just read from, so you can just cut and paste.
I think we ought to start looking for waterfront property to spend the rest of this on for coastal resiliency.
Excuse me. So that language, Jen, should suffice for what they were looking for. The fact that I read it, the motion to it.
Correct. That doesn't matter if you read it, Mr. Chairman.
No, I didn't think so, but all right. So I don't know if the trust fund is big enough for oceanfront property, but anyway. All right. Motion. Who wants it?
Make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to adjourn.
Carlo Hawk second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Aye.
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Frog eye. Where's Patton?
Pat and I.
Unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for supporting the staff. Appreciate it.